us are young women yet to embark the adventure that is marriage and the miracle that is motherhood. Our spiritual journeys crisscross all maps. Our dreams converge and find us together. Tonight, gathered here, our souls intertwine through our history, our faith and our commitment to Judaism. Judaism thrives because of us. It is the Jewish woman who, throughout the generations, has bestowed the beauty, the values, the peace, and the strength that rests in the heart of every Jewish home. Join us as we meet some of Jewish history's most extraordinary women. These are women whose faith, commitment, and compassion have played no small part in bringing us together today. Let us transcend both time and fashion to be with them and to gain inspiration from their example.
Homes were filled with idols. People believed in many gods. One home was different. No idols, no statues. One man and one woman with a mission to illuminate the world with their belief in one God. Sarah. She left with her husband, commanded by God, to the land of Canaan, doing acts of kindness wherever they went. Their tent was open to the lonely, to the needy, to the weary traveler. Abraham taught the men. Sarah taught the women. One belief, one God, one mission. Sarah, the first Jewish woman chosen by God to become the matriarch of the Jewish people. Sarah was barren. How can a barren woman be the mother of a nation? Believe, have faith. God is beyond limits and nothing is impossible. At 90, Sarah gave birth to Isaac. She lovingly nurtured and educated him. From this child, the Jewish people would be born. Everything Sarah knew to be true, she passed on to him. And it continued to pass from mother to child, from mother to child. Each Jewish soul to be born in the future originated from Sarah, our loving mother. Sarah, her home glowed with the light of the first candles ever lit in honor of Shabbat. The smell of freshly baked challah permeated her tent. The divine cloud hovered over her dwelling. Sarah, the mother of the Jewish people, she shaped our nation. One belief, one God, the first Jewish woman. Miriam. She was born into Egyptian slavery, into a time of bitterness and despair. Paro decreed that all Jewish baby boys must be thrown into the Nile River. Imagine Miriam's disappointment when she learned one day that her father had decided to separate from her mother for fear of having a son who might be killed. Miriam's father's actions inspired others, and soon all the husbands did the same. Though young in years, Miriam could not contain herself and turned to her father and said, "Father, your decree is harsher than Pharaoh's. He wishes to destroy all the baby boys, but your action eliminates the girls as well. Father, as a leader of our nation, you must show courage." With a prophetic vision granted to a select few, Miriam saw the destiny of the entire Jewish people. She recognized and understood her brother Moshe's holy mission. Miriam's father saw the wisdom of her words and reunited with her mother, and that is how her brother Moshe was born. Hundreds of years of slavery passed. When will it end? Miriam encouraged those around her. Don't give up. The end of our slavery is near. Miriam was steadfast in her faith and encouraged others to stay strong. They kept their distinctive, modest way of dress, their holy language, and their traditional names, although the burden placed upon them was heavy, the load impossible to bear. Miriam did not give up. She made a tambourine. I will play and sing words of praise at our redemption, which I know is near. Miriam's brother Moshe arose as their leader. He came as the messenger of God. Let my people go. At last, with great miracles, the Jews left Egypt. The Red Sea parted and Israel walked through on dry land. Miriam sang and played her tambourine, and all the women joined in her song. Music of praise, music of freedom, music for a faith rewarded. Crystal palaces, lush green fields, sparkling diamonds, and glowing rubies. As a Moabite princess, they were all hers, and yet she saw her world for what it was, empty, without true value. Ruth yearned for truth. Her soul yearned to join the people of God, the Jewish nation. She married a Jewish man. He died, and she was left a young widow. Her mother-in-law Naomi told her, "I am destitute. I have nothing to give you. Go back to your parents' home. I am returning to my native land, to my people, to Israel." Ruth clung to Naomi. She made a choice. Where you go, I will go. Your people are my people. Your God is my God, Ruth told her mother-in-law. Naomi tried to persuade her again to go back to her life as a Moabite princess. Ruth chose to be a Jew. Her bond with the Jewish people was strong. Nothing could deter her. Naomi taught her Torah. Ruth made a commitment to what she recognized as a life of truth, always maintaining her royal dignity and modesty. This exemplary convert rejoiced to be part of the children of Israel, to live in the land of Israel, and to keep the laws of the God of Israel. She never looked back, and God rejoiced in her and rewarded her noble deeds. Boaz, the leader and judge of the Jewish people, chose Ruth to be his wife. God saw Ruth's sincerity and granted her the merit of being the great-grandmother of King David, the builder of the Holy Temple. The royalty of the Jewish nation descends directly from Ruth, and from this eternal branch will ultimately descend the Mashiach, the final redeemer of the Jewish people. Esther, the power of loyalty. Persia, 64 years after the destruction of the first temple, the king of Persia, Ahasuerus, was searching for a new queen. Who would be the one? Beautiful, graceful, modest Esther, hid in the home of her uncle Mordecai, a great Jewish leader. The king's soldiers knocked on the door. After seeing her beauty, they took her to the palace. Mordecai whispered to her, "Keep our Torah's commandments, but do not tell anyone that you are Jewish." Thousands yearned to be in her place, but for Esther, living in the palace was torture. Torn away from her home, she cried in her private chambers. She longed to return to her cousin Mordecai. She didn't forget his words and was determined to remain a faithful Jewess. And so she began her double life. Where did she come from? Who is her family? From which nation does she belong? They asked about her. They admired her. They envied her. Every group wanted to claim her as their own, but she kept her true identity hidden. Outwardly playing the part of a contented queen, she secretly observed the Jewish faith. 7 trusted maidservants helped her remember the Shabbos day amidst a Confucian Persian calendar. An abundance of fruit, vegetables, and legumes enabled her to continue keeping kosher. But her greatest test was yet to come. When the Jewish people were about to be annihilated by Haman, Esther risked her life to save her people. Esther decided to approach the king without an invitation, to plead for her life and for the life of her people. Defying the threat of death for such an act, Esther remained loyal to the nation of her birth. Knowing she was only a channel of heavenly salvation, Esther asked the Jews to fast and to pray. In the merit of our spiritual awakening, God will save us, she declared, and he did. Esther found grace in the king's eyes, and he obeyed all her wishes. The vicious plot was foiled. The scroll of Esther, read every year on Purim, continues to inspire us with the legacy of a queen whose self-sacrifice, loyalty, and love for her God and her people brought about a miraculous salvation. Shalomit. Shalomit, the daughter of Rabbi Akiva, the great sage of the Talmud, and the very wise and spiritual Rachel. It was her wedding day. There was a very festive feeling in the home. The women worked hard to prepare the wedding feast. The tables were set and festively adorned. Delicious delicacies were cooked and baked. Every girl dreams of her wedding, and Shalomit was no different. The setting was perfect. The atmosphere was one of holiness and joy, a mingling of worldly wonders and spirituality. Later, after the chuppah, Shalomit slipped into the garden for some fresh air. She sat down and removed her wedding veil. Shalomit pushed the long pin from her headdress into the clay wall and hung her veil on it. When Shalomit retrieved the pin the following morning, a poisonous snake came trailing after it. The pin had penetrated the serpent between the eyes and killed it. Was there anything extraordinary that you did yesterday that led to this miracle, Rabbi Akiva asked when Shalomit showed him the venomous creature. A poor man came to the wedding feast yesterday evening, Shalomit said. Everybody was busy at the banquet and there was no one to attend to him, so I took my portion of food and gave it to him. My darling daughter, Akiva said, today I am filled with joy, while yesterday I was filled with dread. On the day that you were born, an astrologer told me that on the day of her wedding, your daughter shall pass on. Although a Jew was not bound by astrology, I never forgot his words. Shalom, my daughter, you have been saved from a dreadful decree. Tzedakah tatil mimadeh, charity saves from death, and today I am filled with joy. Shalom, the epitome of compassion. Donna Garcia, the power of identity. Portugal, the beginning of the 16th century. Born to a Spanish noble family who had fled the Inquisition, Donna Garcia was married to Francisco Mendez Nasi, a member of one of the largest international trade and banking firms in the world. Donna Garcia bore one daughter, and then her husband tragically died young. Donna Garcia lived secretly as an observant Jew, but externally adopted the Catholic Church in order to avoid being burned at the stake. Portugal felt the stranglehold of the Inquisition, which made life unbearable for the Moranos. How she hated every moment that she had to hide her true feelings, her beliefs, her practices. Donna Garcia had no choice. She had to escape. She took her daughter and fled to Antwerp. In Antwerp, Donna Garcia developed an escape network that helped hundreds of Moranos flee Spain and Portugal. She used her enormous wealth, her connections, and her grace to influence popes and kings to protect her fellow Jews. But then Antwerp too became unsafe, and Donna Garcia was on the run once again. This time she fled to Istanbul, but on the way, in Venice, she was thrown into prison. After 2 years of negotiations by wealthy relatives and after threats of actual war, Donna Garcia was released. By 1552, Donna Garcia and her daughter finally reached Istanbul. One would think that she would rest at last, but not Donna Garcia, not the Jewish noblewoman of Greece. She fought, she rescued, she built synagogues and yeshivas, libraries and schools, and she supported Torah scholars. Until the end of her life, Donna Garcia dedicated her heart and soul to helping the Jewish community. She fostered Jewish culture, and poets wrote at great length in praise of her achievements. The power of sacrifice. In Tangiers, Morocco, lived Zuleika Shakbil, a beautiful Jewish girl born in 1819. She had learned much Torah from her mother and father and was devoted to Judaism. When Zuleika reached her first birthday, her father bought a golden crown for her to wear on her wedding day. Throughout her childhood, Zuleika would stare at this crown and dream of the day that she would be a bride. Zuleika's compelling beauty did not go unnoticed, and when she was 12 years old, the Sultan's son desired to take her as his wife. He offered her all his riches if she would convert to Islam and marry him. There was no monetary compensation for true belief in God for Zuleika's words as she was led into prison. The Sultan's son did not give up and threatened to execute her if she did not convert to Islam and marry him. Zuleika always remembered the thousands who had died for their faith before her. Zuleika understood that this was the moment to stand strong, that the eyes of her people were upon her. The Sultan's son ordered that Zuleika be put to death. Even the executioner begged her to convert, for he could not bear to see such an exquisite woman die so young. But Zuleika was determined and would never forsake her faith. Alas, she was put to death in the public square. Zuleika's sacrifice took place 200 years ago, and ever since, many Moroccan families have honored her heroism by visiting her burial place and by naming their baby girls after her. Zuleika is kept alive through our commitment to the ideals she died for. Today, living in a country where religious freedom is a given, we must never take for granted the ease with which we can remain true to our Jewish values. Chana Schneerson. Known to most as Rebbetzin Chana, wife of Reb Leivik and the mother of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the seventh leader of the Chabad movement. With the advent of communism, the Jews of the Soviet Union faced terrible persecution. Chana and her husband Reb Leivik became very active in the underground movement, defying the new laws of the Russian government at great personal risk. In 1939, Reb Leivik was arrested and subsequently exiled. Despite the difficulties that entailed, Rebbetzin Chana decided to join him in exile. While far away in Kazakhstan, Chana's husband yearned for a way to transcribe his Torah thoughts, but lacked paper and ink. Chana managed to arrange for a few of his Torah books to be smuggled in. Then she made ink, from some of the wild berries, roots, and leaves she collected in the nearby woods. Due to the extremely primitive living conditions and years of torture and deprivation, Hannah's husband Rablevic became seriously ill and passed away while in exile. After the war, Rebbetzin Hannah was able to leave Russia, but would not travel without her husband's holy books and manuscripts. With the help and encouragement of faithful Hasidim, she was able to bring his holy works to freedom, and Rablevic's holy legacy was preserved. After emigrating to the United States, Rebbetzin Hannah was finally reunited with her son, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, from whom she had been separated for 20 years. Rebbetzin Hannah, who would not easily conceal her pride, would often speak of her son's distinguished character and greatness, and of the resemblance to his father that she saw in him. When she did, tears of joy could be seen in her eyes, tears that one could tell outweighed all the sad and bitter tears of her earlier years. With dignity and without pretension, Rebbetzin Hannah always took a genuine interest in the well-being of each person she knew. Today, there are many educational institutions all over the world that proudly bear the name Hannah. Together with the countless women and girls who have been named Hannah, they serve as a fitting tribute to the remarkable life and personality of Rebbetzin Hannah. May she be an inspiration to us all. The Jewish woman of today. Throughout our history, it has always been the Jewish women who preserved our faith and heritage, from our royal matriarchs Sarah and Esther to the courageous Zuleika, Hannah Schneerson, and the women of the ghettos in Europe, from periods of persecution and hunger to times of prosperity and peace. The dedication and steadfastness to the Torah and Mitzvah has been the secret to the eternity and immortality of our nation. And today, more than 3,000 years since the birth of the Jewish people, it is once again the Jewish woman who upholds our unique identity as a Jew. The Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, engineered a worldwide revival of Judaism from the moment he stepped forward to lead the Chabad Lubavitch movement in 1950, and a critical area of his focus was the Jewish woman. Here in Cherry Hill, Yiddishkeit is vibrantly alive. Look around you. We are surrounded by Jewish women who are enthused to learn, celebrate, and connect to our rich Jewish heritage. We, the Jewish women, have the unique mission and responsibility to ensure the future of Jewish life. We have the extraordinary strength and sensitivity to fulfill this mission. You might hear the whispering voices of your mother, your grandmother, and generations upon generations of Jewish women before you, encouraging you to provide your family with the gift of Jewish tradition of deep and spirited Judaism. Share with them the gift of Torah study, the gift of loving kindness, the gift of Shabbat, the gift of mikvah, kosher, mezuzah, tzedakah. Give your sweet daughters the gift of Shabbat candles, and grant your precious sons the gift of daily tefillin. Bestow upon your children the richness of a Jewish education. Fill your homes with the books of Torah and holiness, and take upon one new mitzvah tonight. This way, in your daily life full of mitzvah, all our mothers who came before us, and their mothers who came before them, continue to live through us, and they are so proud of us. They are so proud of you, the Jewish woman. To the women of yesterday, we salute the women of today, and we proudly present to you our future. Fayga, the Jewish woman of tomorrow.
Need more light on her.
You can't have it.
Why?
Very sensitive.
She is?